Greetings from MedTalks. I am Dr. K.K. Agarwal. I am currently the President of Confederation of Medical Association of Asia and Oceania. I am also the President of HeartCare Foundation of India and past National President of Indian Medical Association. And this is a series of seminars we are doing in dermatology. And this is going to be an interesting session. I have with me from left to right, Dr. Deepak Kulkarni, who is MD in dermatology, and he's achieved dermatology in Panvel with over 30 years of experience. And he passed his MBBS and MD from BJ Medical College, Pune. And he stood first in the university examination for MD. He is a recipient of Dr. Arvind Lonkar Award from IIDVL, and he is also awarded Panvel Udyog Shri Award by Vivek Magazine, felicitated by Government of Maharashtra in the field of leprosy. Leprosy was my thesis subject in MD, and he was always presented with Sharat Nayak Award. I have with me Dr. Abir Saraswat, who is a dermatologist in Lucknow, and he's a prominent dermatologist and cosmetologist in Lucknow with over 25 years of experience. And he did his MD in dermatology in PGI, and his specialization include clinical dermatology, skin, psoriasis, dermatology, allergy, dermohepatopathy, allergen, pediatric dermatology, content dermatitis, singing, and other things. So this is dermatology singing, that he also do singing as his hobbies. So all my viewers and my colleagues who are watching this program, we are going to emphasize today on a dermatology clinic, the time to open, and time to, first of all, our time is to take the fear out. Today we have a COVID phobia. All of us are having a fear. The politicians are having a fear because 2 prime ministers in various countries has got it, including the Britain prime minister who got it. So politicians are fearful. Large number of journalists got it in Mumbai, so they are fearful. So they are creating all types of messages. The public is in fear. The doctor fraternity is in fear because they say that 6% of the doctors invariably are going to get it. And all doctors with comorbid conditions, couple of them we have lost. So there is a fear all over. And the job today is to take that fear out. And I'll give you some statistics before I say what I mean. As on today's date, there are only all the patients who are presenting today. Let me open the statistics. There are 25 lakh active cases. There are, at this moment, there are 25 lakh cases, active cases, with only 45,000 which is serious or which are critical. And if that's so, the number of patients who are critical today are only 2%. So all the people who are suffering with corona today, all over the world, only 15% of those 2% will die, which is 0.3%. You go for a gallbladder surgery, you go for a bypass surgery, and every time the surgeon says your risk is more than 0.3%. So then why fear? Why there is a fear amongst doctors? Number one. Number two, fear is because 10 doctors have died in India. No, they all have comorbid conditions. They all had comorbid conditions. We have not seen a doctor who has died with a normal immunity and without a normal comorbid conditions. And if a doctor has comorbid conditions, he is at high risk in any way for any pneumonia. So then why are we worrying so much? Why there is fear? Are we not supposed to maintain hygiene in our clinic? So are we not supposed to wear gloves and wash our hands before and after seeing any patients? Are we not asked the patients not to cough on our face? Have we not been teaching our patients how to prevent H1N1 virus? So the only thing this COVID has taught us is social distancing. And with this social distancing also, in our Vedic era, we were taught that we should not have face-to-face talk with our elders, and we should not have face-to-face talk with people who are high risk or the people who visits our home. We give them a high pedestal to sit. That means face-to-face meeting is not there. So the only thing Corona is asking us is, please avoid face-to-face meeting, maintain a social distance. And if you cannot maintain a social distance, wear a mask and avoid face-to-face means level-to-level meeting. If a person is on a lower pedestal, other person is at a high pedestal, their respiration will not move to each other. If that's so, in a dermatology practice, we know 25% of dermatological skin reaction, COVID toes. We can have every type of a dermatological manifestation which is non-contagious. If that's so, dermatologists, all people who are watching this, after finish this program, should call up his compounder and says, open the clinic from tomorrow, I'm coming. That's the topic for today. Why not join today? Forget about tomorrow. Open your clinic today in the evening, sit there for 2 hours, follow what Dr. Deepak and Dr. Abir has to say. Let's listen to them. Abir.
I think Dr. Agarwal has really set the scene very nicely. And what he says is absolutely right. And I was one of the very few dermatologists who actually almost never stopped working, except for 6 or 7 days in the end of March, when the situation was very fluid and initial. After that, I've been working continuously. I've not stopped working at all. And what I've done is I've reduced my timings because patients were having difficulty coming. They couldn't come, so there was no point in sitting from morning till evening. So I reduced it to a 3-hour slot. I kept my staff by 1/3, bare minimum staff, and then put up a lot of posters in the clinic outside, told the guard at the gate what to tell patients about screening, whether, and to avoid unnecessary consultations if they were really well. Opened up channels, alternate channels, which were not so open earlier, that they could call me, they could email me. Started a video consultation software. Also, I added it to my clinic management software. The video consultation option, I opened it. It was not open earlier. So I opened alternate channels, sensitized my staff, reduced my working hours, made some basic changes to the clinic waiting room architecture, to the setting up of the consultation chamber, and started observing those basic precautions, which, as Dr. Agarwal very nicely pointed out, I should have been doing even earlier, I guess. But we were taking it kind of lightly. So that's it. And I'm...
So Deepak, you want to add something? There's some voice problem with Abir. Yes.
Yeah, I'll divide my talk, point in 2 parts. Number 1, what I am doing in my clinic. And number 2, why people are afraid. Because some of those fears are not unfounded. What I did, I stopped my clinic only for a day, single day, and then the clinic is going on continuously. So we work for lesser number of hours. I have an advantage that I have a team of doctors, team of dermatologists working with me. So I can easily, rope in and do alternate duties, but clinic wasn't closed. We are taking adequate precautions. We have shifted to telemedicine the way Abir was saying. All those things we are doing. So I stopped the clinic only for a day. Now, why fear? So unless we know why people are afraid, we will not be able to address their problems. Fear number 1 is they are worried about the patients getting infected from the clinic. Obviously, that can be taken care of by taking adequate precautions. They are worried about their staff. Because if the staff do not properly function, they are not trained adequately, they can get infected, and in that case, the clinic can be held responsible. That may be another fear in their mind. Third fear about getting quarantined. See, people are not too much afraid about corona as such, but they are more worried about getting quarantined and the family getting a sort of a stigma. That is another fear. But now I think with months together and considering that slowly the doubling time is increasing, now we are getting used to the whole situation. We know what kind of care can take care of our safety. then I think there's a time that those people who have not opened up as yet should go ahead and do it.
I want to add one thing is that we don't have to worry about the doubling time, because we still have a doubling time of 12 days against the USA, which is 27 days, UK 27 days, Spain 40 days, Italy 46 days, France 41 days, Germany 44 days. So we still have many countries may be better off. But in India, we definitely, irrespective of the status of doubling time, we need to work with taking precautions like we used to take in HIV. We used to take standard precautions and work, and we need to reduce the transmission rate. One. Two is that we are in process of taking a legal opinion, and we will be filing a Supreme Court PIL to exempt all doctors in the country from any litigation or liability during COVID era, because we can't be responsible for getting an infection to a patient or to our staff, because in the Disease Epidemic Act, this clause protects the government doctors, but not the private doctors, and that at an association level, we are trying to take care of that. So I don't think so. We should be fearful that I may infect a patient. For this, telemedicine has given us very good guidelines. And this says if the patient comes to you for a telemedicine chat, no consent is required. But if you contact a patient, then consent is required. So in your clinic, with the patient is coming, I don't think so you are forcing a patient. And if he gets the infection, you are not liable. Similarly, your staff is coming of his own choice. You are not forcing them to come. So those people who want to leave, this is the best time to leave. Suppose those people who say, we don't want to join your clinic back, this is the best time to leave. You can't force them to come. And only those people who come who have faith in you and who have, so I don't think so that doctors will be liable for any liability for their patients or their relations or for the staff. Obviously, if you are taking standard precautions. If you're not taking standard precaution, then it's a section 269, 270 of IPC in any way is applicable. For that, we don't require, that was applicable before that also. Article 269 and 270 is that if you help in spreading an infection, you can be liable under IPC 269, 270, which is a crime. So that was present before also. That was present even in TB. If you don't notify TB, you can be booked under 270. There is a government circular for that. So similarly, if you have COVID and you don't notify, you are in any way liable for that. I don't think so there is extra liability for that. So Abir, what are the standard precautions?
The standard precautions, what I am taking is I'm wearing a triple layer surgical mask in general when I'm seeing patients. I have put the stool away. Patient examination stool is about 6 feet away now from my table, from earlier when it was about 3 to 4 feet away. A few practical tips that I have seen, because patients always carry purses, bags, stuff and all, and they want to come close to your table to put them on your table or put their file on your table. So right next to the patient stool, I have a small table so that the patient doesn't come close to me, to my table to put his stuff or to show me things, so they can put it there, whatever they are carrying. They have a folder. They are supposed to take the slip out of the folder and give it to me. I'm sanitizing my hands before and after each patient that comes. If there is a patient in whom I need to take a closer look or to perform a trichoscopy or a dermoscopy using my scope, I'm making sure that all patients are wearing masks, but I tell them to turn away from me if I need to look at the scalp, for example, for trichoscopy. And then I wear nitrile gloves, examine them and discard.
And before his voice comes back, he is becoming asymptomatic in between. And because asymptomatic does not transmit any infection, so he's taking standard precautions.
Chair has been crossed off so that.
No, Abir, I was saying that you are taking standard precautions, becoming asymptomatic in between and becoming like mute by your voice. In the meantime, let me explain you what Abir said. Abir said we are going to use a 3-ply surgical mask. And for my colleagues, doctors who are watching.
So,
yes, Abir.
There are.
Abir, your voice is not coming. Please unmute Abir. Yes.
Yes, sir. So mask now. I'm getting closer to the network now.
Yes.
So I am in in addition to the mask, I've made sure that the patient's examination stool is a little further away from my table than it was earlier. And I have put a footstool in between the patient's stool and my table so that they cannot really come very close even if they want to. And if I have to examine a patient, I get up from my chair, I don gloves, and then I tell them to turn away from me as far as possible if I have to do a trichoscopy or a dermoscopy. And then I do the examination and come back and discard those gloves and sanitize my hands again. So that is as far as examination is concerned. If I need to take a closer look at any rash also, I do the same thing. If I need to palpate a rash, I don gloves and then take them off after I've done it. The main changes have been outside, actually, in the waiting room and at the gate, where my guard makes sure that every patient washes their hands with the liquid soap. There is a bucket of water with a tap and all kept outside. And everybody has to wear a mask. If somebody is not wearing a mask when he's coming in my clinic, my staff gives them a mask to wear. And there is a basic history taking and making sure that they don't have fever, etc. At that point of time when they come. And there is a table in front of the counter as well, so that they cannot lean on the counter or put their hands on the counter. There are prominent notices telling them not to touch common surfaces as far as possible, like chair handles, door handles. The doors are kept open unless I have to examine a patient. Only then the door to my chamber is closed so that the patient don't touch it. And the sweeper sanitizes everything with hypochlorite every 30 to 40 minutes or so. So this is what I am doing.
Thank you, Abir. It was a good way of explaining to the things. I want to add some basic thing for my dermatologist friends. When we talk about mask, there are 3 types of mask: single ply, double ply, and 3 ply. So I need to explain to you a 3 ply mask in the market is available of 2 types, and that is a carbon 3 ply and a filter 3 ply. So kindly do not use the carbon 3 ply, which is used basically in your car, which takes away the smell. When we say 3 ply, there is an outer layer which is hydrophobic, inner layer which is hydrophilic, and in between there is a filter. So make sure that you use the correct method, correct mask, which you take a 3 ply, outer hydrophobic, so that the viruses falls on the surface, inner hydrophilic, so that your sputum, your vibrations are absorbed into the virus. And then another thing is that when you use this mask, outer has to be downward. So the viruses goes down, and inner has to be housing the viruses here. So this is inner, this is outer. So that's the way. And there is another way of remembering is there is a stick here, which is on the nose. So therefore, whenever you are buying the surgical mask, today, IMA has negotiated and brought down the price of the surgical mask to 3 rupees. So therefore, surgical masks are available at 3 rupees. It makes sense that enough number of masks are available in your clinic to be given to the patient. Because even if the patient comes to you with his cloth mask, which is being promoted outside the healthcare setting, in the healthcare setting, it is always better we give him a mask, which is surgical mask to wear, and then he enters inside. Another thing which he can wear is a shield, and these shields now are available at 30 rupees, which a patient can buy them. So the dermatologist can keep a large number of sheets in front of them. So these are the types of sheets. These are the types of sheets, and I can wear them. And these are the types of sheets which are available. So all dermatologists can have these sheets which are costing 30 rupees, which can be billed to the patient. So this protects you and also protects the family. That's one. And 2 is that minimum furniture. This is what Abir has said. Minimum furniture. If you're going to keep 3 chairs for the relations, 3 will come. But if you're going to keep only 1 chair for the relation and 1 for the patient, and patient which is a circular one, and always make a patient sit face to side, never face to face. If the patient is face to side, so the patient's breathing like this, you are breathing like this, there is no face to face touch. So never, never, never have face to face meeting with your patient. So make arrangement for face to side meeting, and both of you are wearing mask. Chances of transmission and cross infection practically are zero, because you are taking precautions. And then if you are washing your commonly touched surface areas, even thrice a day, he is saying every 40 minutes, fine. But even if you're doing 3 times, it is absolutely all right. The only thing I may say is that doctors should wear as much as possible N95 mask, because once you know that 25% of COVID patients may have skin manifestations, so your chances of getting a COVID patients are very high, because they may come initially to you with a rash and you may find this is a typical COVID, and COVID manifestations of skin may precede the fever. Fever may come after 2 days. These are called pre-symptomatic patients, because main symptom fever may come 48 hours later. So if you wear a N95 mask, over it you wear a surgical mask, and after every patient you remove the surgical mask and carry on the N95 mask, then chances of acquiring an infection to doctor practically becomes zero with that. So the only thing is, because if you're wearing a surgical mask, if the patient coughs, then there is a difficulty. If the patient is not coughing, there is no difficulty. Deepak, what are the aerosol procedures which are used in dermatology clinic? Do you have any aerosol producing procedures?
Yeah. The most important aerosol producing procedure in dermatology is radiofrequency cautery. The electrocautery or the radiofrequency cautery is the aerosol producing one. But firstly, we mainly do it on hands and feet somewhere where the contact with face necessarily may not come. And that's why the chance is much less. But still, I will prefer to use a smoke evacuator, which is always there in most of the people who are using fractional CO2 laser machine. So a smoke evacuator is useful in such situations.
So here we normally says, if you are doing any aerosol producing procedure in your room and you don't have a airborne isolation infection facilities, which is negative pressure with an exchange rate of 12 per minute, 12 per hour, you can, all those people who are here can use an air purifier with a CDR of 12 exchanges per hour. And that also will take care of if you are having a aerosol procedures in the clinic. So all people who are doing aerosol procedures in their clinic should put on also a air purifier. Air purifier, the only thing is when you remove the filter after a month or 2, you have to wear a complete personal protective equipment, because the last viruses may stay in the filter, but that is okay. So if you are doing any aerosol procedure, so all those who are viewing, all dermatologists who are viewing, and if they feel that they need to continue to aerosol producing procedures, buy a air purifier with a CDR, which gives you 10 to 12 cycles per hour. And that is the rate of exchange of air, purified air in the room. So that can be done. With that, you become totally safe. Abir, you want to add?
Yeah, no, there are very few actually. Respiratory aerosol producing procedures are practically none. Here we are talking about maybe a blood or tissue aerosol being produced when we are ablating it. So yes, what you're saying with the air purifier is good enough. Or we also have smoke evacuating machines that we use right next to the laser nozzle, which also reduces. And putting, in addition, any kind of macro droplets can be taken care of by putting the additional shield that you just demonstrated. In addition to the N95 mask, if you put a shield in front of that, that takes care of any macroscopic droplets also that are coming in. The only practical problem that I have seen is that some of these cheaper face shields that are available that have a thick sort of OHP film, they produce a certain amount of distortion. And the field that we are seeing is not very clear. And in those scenarios, I found that the polycarbonate face shield that is there in helmets, that quality of polycarbonate shield that is available, unfortunately short in the market right now, but if you try, you can get it. That produces almost zero distortion, and that's better for doing fine procedures. These cheaper OHP type face shields produce a certain amount of distortion. My technician, at least, is not able to do laser procedures properly when he's wearing that shield.
Absolutely, I agree. It has to be, because if it is distorting, it is going to affect your eye vision also, because you will not be able to see it clearly. I agree with you. But these are the things which are available, and because eye shield can be reused, this is something which can be reused if effectively used. And then
Yes.
when you are going out, so all those people who say that they are opening their clinic for say 3 hours, 6 hours, when you are going out, that means you are closing your clinic, you can decontaminate the whole clinic. There are options
Yes.
available. So there is hydrogen oxide decontamination, which is usually been done in bigger offices. You can have a chlorine dioxide, which is available as a sachet. You put it in water, close the room, and 2 hours the whole room is totally decontaminated. And third is you absolutely take a 0.1% bleaching solution and use a cloth and do a mopping and clean everything. And next day morning again do it. It's ready to use. So therefore, decontamination of your clinic in the evening is very, very, very important. So
Sodium
Deepak,
hypochlorite is easily available.
yes, these are easily available. So Deepak, when you go home now, you have come from your home, and so you have entered from your home. You are now sitting in a car with the AC off and with the window open. Now you are entering your clinic. When you are entering your clinic, you have two options. Either you stay there like the way you are sitting here. Two is you open your a dress like a OT dress. That's another option. You wear like a OT dress, because in that way you are not contaminating your shirt, your trouser, or anything. And in the evening, because you are not wearing your complete suite, which is not required in the OPD practice unless you have a high risk practice with that. In that way, in the evening, you change your shirt and your trouser, and that you have practically, it's like an apron. So you wear an apron and you keep your apron in the establishment. You don't carry apron in your home. And when you go home, you change your shirt and this trouser, even if it is non-infective, take a bath, and put this shirt and trouser for a wash, so that it gives confidence to your family that you are not carrying infection. It is only a confidence building exercise that when you are entering your home, you have taken a wash and you have put your clothes outside. In US, people are changing clothes in their car. In US, people are changing clothes in the lift, or people are changing clothes in their corridor, so that they give a confidence to their family, hey, I have not brought any virus. Your comments, Abir and Deepak.
Yeah, thing is that when I go there, I'm at the moment using an OT gown, which is very easy to, disinfect using sodium hypochlorite at the end of the day. And it gives me a confidence also. But yesterday only in IIDVL meeting, it was discussed, as you said, that a full sleeved apron can be used, which can be just left in the clinic. Don't bring it home, should be good enough, apart from the gloves and the mask and the cap. So, but at the moment I'm using an OT gown. What I'm doing, one thing I've forgot to add, that after doing a sanitization, at the moment I'm practicing one thing. I don't know whether it is right or whether it is unnecessary, but I'm giving the plastic examination gloves to be worn to the patients outside after they sanitize their hands. By that, I can totally eliminate their touch anywhere in the clinic. I think that is working well.
And that's required. Ideally, you should give them the gloves and also a shoe cover, because they can carry the infection because it is present in the surface. So ideally, you should give them a shoe cover and a nitrile glove when they enter inside, because even if they touch anything, they're not going to carry infection with that. So I agree with you in that. And these are add-ons. These are not the must, but these are add-ons with that. And what was this IIDVL guidelines? What did they say?
IIDVL guidelines were almost in the similar lines what you are discussing right now. They were saying the same thing, that do not unnecessarily get afraid. We are not so much exposed. You better discuss with the patient on phone and try to avoid unnecessary visits. So only those patients who are required to come to the clinic should come. Triage outside the clinic, so that any patient with fever, URTI symptoms can be avoided. So all those things can be done, sanitization. And in the clinic, they have said that if you are doing a triage properly outside the clinic, then even N95 mask is not required to be worn by the staff or the doctor. But if you are not practicing that, you better use N95 mask and a cap. And only when you are doing a procedure, you need to have a shoe cover, a face shield, and an N95 mask. Even at the time of doing a procedure, they have not advised PPE kit.
So
But whenever you are doing some major procedure like hair transplantation, though it is extremely uncomfortable using PP kit throughout the day in doing hair transplantation, there probably you may think because the contact with the patient is for a long time.
So I want to add one thing, and I want Abir to react on that. And that is, I am currently the president of all the 19 Asian medical associations. And even today, we were talking to Singapore and Hong Kong counterpart. So I asked Singapore, what are your ways of practicing? And their way of practicing, I'll tell you as a GP, which will be true for any specialty clinic. They say we have two types of clinics. One is a COVID patient clinic. So they are designated 800 COVID clinics in Singapore. And others are where COVID non-designated. That means still you can have COVID patients, but they are not COVID. That means if you don't suspect and still people can come with COVID, these are called non-COVID clinics. So he said, if I happens to see a patient and which turns out to be COVID, and then he says report is available in 3 hours. Suppose 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I saw a patient and he had a typical skin rash and I suspected it may be COVID. I send him for a test and the test comes out to be positive in 3 hours. He says, I notify, and by 4 o'clock, the administrators will come. The public health administrators will visit my clinic because now my clinic is possibly infected, and they will ask me 3 questions. The first question they will ask is, was the patient wearing a mask? I said yes. The second question they will ask is, were you wearing a N95 mask? There they insist on N95, and you say yes. And then the third question they say is, what was your contact time? If your contact time was less than 30 minutes, they will walk out and say, carry on your practice. And if you say my contact time with the patient was more than 30 minutes, they will say, leave your practice for 2 hours, decontaminate the surfaces and start your practice after 2 hours. That's what Singapore is following. They are not closing, they are not doing quarantine. So they say, if you take precautions, that means you are wearing an N95 mask. If your patient is wearing a mask, and in that particular situation, if you are maintaining social distancing, and if your contact time is less than 30 minutes, it's fine. I mean, you don't have to worry about that. Or that now explains why Kanika Kapoor, who was positive, met hundreds of people in a party, did not infect anybody because her contact time with anybody was less than 3 minutes. And that explains that when you are doing any surgical skin dermatological procedure, do it in less than 30 minutes. So if your surgical time is less than 30 minutes, your chances of transmission are not there. Now here Singapore says 30 minutes, but many other countries says 10 minutes. So in less than 10 minutes, your chances are 0. And Singapore says up to 30 minutes, you are safe. So therefore, we are recommending our GPs don't spend more than 3 or 4 minutes to a contact time. Means don't see their files and waste time. Don't waste time in the prescription writing. Ask them to, after you have checked them up, you say go and sit 6 feet. You go and sit in the corner. I will explain from a distance. So minimum your contact time with the patient face to face or face to side, less will be your chances of infection. Abir.
Yes, sir. Very helpful and nice to see what the Singaporeans are doing. I have noticed a couple of things in my practice. Patients tend to, out of some kind of respect for you, or they feel odd, once they come in and start talking, they tend to just push their mask down and try to talk to you face to face as if they're feeling embarrassed or something. So I am never slow in telling them to put their mask back up very politely and nicely, and telling them that it is useless if they are putting it down while talking to me. And this is a very, very common tendency that I've seen in my patients. So please, other physicians should also be aware.
So Abir, you take it for granted that a patient is not going to, whenever anybody talks, he will talk like this.
Yes.
This is normal. So therefore, in US, they are talking about face shield. And for them, that cheaper version is okay because they are not doing a fine procedure. So all those people, patients who are, it is always better for them to use a face shield when they are visiting the doctors. And it's now cheaply available. The cheaper version is available at 30 rupees. So I insist my patients wear a face shield and come. Because invariably they will say, hello doctor, this is how, that's the reaction. They are
Exactly.
not used to. They are not used to.
Yes.
They are not used to. And even if they don't do that, they will do like this. They
Yes,
will
the
take
nose will be
out.
open.
They will take the nose out because they want to breathe out.
Yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
So
Abhi.
the face shield is a better idea, of course. But I do tell them, and then they do put it up. But we have to remember to tell them. And of course, control of attendance, like you said. So crowd control is the most difficult problem that I am facing in the waiting room. So I have a guard outside who then controls, because once my waiting room is full with every alternate seat empty, and once that capacity has been exhausted, patients are stopped from entering outside. They are told to go back and sit in their own cars or whatever, because unfortunately the CMOs in my city and other city have been penalizing certain doctors for crowds of people standing outside the road, outside their doors on the road also. So that's a bit of a problem if I want to control crowd in my waiting room. But so my guard tells them, go and have a chai somewhere, or if you come in your car, sit in your car so that there's no crowd outside my door. So that's one thing that I am doing, crowd control in the waiting room.
That's very good. And Deepak, that's what most of the hospitals are following. The hospitals are asking their patients, give us your numbers, we'll call you when your turn comes. So you go and sit in your car, wherever you want to go, you go. But no, don't roam around my clinic. We'll give you a call 5 minutes before when your turn comes. Deepak.
The main problem the dermatologists are going to face, that most of the dermatologists with adequate repute and seniority have got a very heavy OPD. Many of them easily see 80, 100 patients a day, and that to control, and they will have to really employ people to see to it that there is adequate social distancing out in the OPD. Triage is done, and those people who are not been accommodated in the OPD waiting hall, they have to be sent back, as Abir said, to their cars or restaurants or wherever they can, or they can, whatever adequate space, they have to create a space. I have created additional space in my clinic where they can sit. So by observing social distancing also, I can accommodate almost 15, 20 waiting patients at a time, but that may not be possible every place. So I think that is a task by itself.
I want to come back to now some of the COVID manifestations. COVID manifestations of a skin rash and the COVID toe. How often they are seen in India? Because in Italy, in many countries, specifically Europe, 25% of the population they are talking about. Because Europe, we are finding a lot of immunoinflammation. But before that, for my viewers, let me tell you certain things to make it easy. You will be able to understand what I'm talking about. This virus behaves differently. It's a virus, so it is supposed to be self-limiting. It is supposed to be a virus which is like any other respiratory virus. It will come more in the winter, less in the summer. Number two, it has some bacteria-like properties because antibiotics are working. Normally we say in virus, antibiotics are not to be given. Third, it is causing immunoinflammation because we have increased ESR, CRP, and ferritin. So it causes immunoinflammation. Four, it causes thrombogenesis. When we say thrombogenesis, it causes increased D-dimer and fibrinogen. Next is it has some HIV-like activity because it is causing lymphopenia and it is causing reduced TLC and lymphopenia. So it has some, and it is causing cytokine storm-like activities, which is seen in flu, which is seen in sometimes in platelet transfusion, sometimes it is seen with plasma therapy, where your own immunity destroys the whole lung together. So there are 6 different types of manifestations which may come. So my question, Deepak, and to Abir is that is a skin manifestation early or late, or it can come anytime?
What I presume they are late, but in most of the cases, but at least in my area where the incidence of COVID is not so much at the moment, I'm very close to Mumbai, but in my town, it's still not there much, hardly 100 cases. So I have not seen any hospital calling me for any COVID related problem.
What about Abir?
Yeah, I've been in touch with my colleagues in the US and Europe and have fairly regular conversations with them about this. And I'm also not aware of any Indian dermatologist reporting a specific rash in a COVID patient. But I know that especially children who are coming in the Western countries, they have an early rash, what you were talking about, the COVID toe, that the like presentation. And that is something that if it happens in India in the month of April, May, no dermatologist will miss it, because we usually see chilblains only in the winter months. So something that so far I think has not been seen in India, probably because the weather is warm, or maybe that we are missing it, or we don't have enough patients yet for that to be seen. The other manifestations, which are the livedo reticularis-like manifestations, or the chickenpox-like rash, or a non-specific maculopapular rash, those are all intermediate to late manifestations, and those also, as far as I am aware, have not been reported from India.
Okay, there in rheumatic fever, we always say that when you have a subcutaneous nodule, take it for granted you have carditis. So similarly, if you have a skin manifestation, does it mean a mild disease? Does it mean a serious disease, or we don't know? Is there any correlation with skin involvement with seriousness of a disease?
Yeah, Dr. Kulkarni, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think that it has still no correlation as such, but with thrombogenesis taking place, I think it may correlate with at least moderate severe disease.
Moderate to severe. So is any skin manifestation contagious? I said in the initially it is not contagious, but I want to be re-emphasized to my viewers that skin manifestations, are they contagious?
Not at all.
They're not contagious, they're basically immunological.
So they are immunological. So therefore, all my viewers and my colleagues, dermatological colleagues, and all others who are watching this program, don't be afraid that it is a respiratory illness, because there was a time people used to think that eating bats can cause it. The answer is no, it is not a fecal-oral, it is not a gastrointestinal disease, though the virus is present in gastrointestinal tract. Similarly, the virus may be present in the skin, may be a viral manifestation of the skin, or it may be a small microthrombosis causing a COVID toe-like situation. It is non-contagious. So therefore, you need to take only precautions of a respiratory symptom. Therefore, if you happen to touch a COVID toe with your hand without a glove, just wash it. Don't worry about it. It is not going to transmit to you. Don't have a sleepless nights in the night, and that you have touched, that I have touched a COVID toe today with that. So coming back to, we still have 15 minutes. Let me see if some questions have come. So my IT unit, if you have some questions, kindly give it to me. And another thing which I am going to talk about is again that, is this COVID serious enough? I said no, it is not serious enough, number one. Number two, cytokine storm is not occurring in everybody. Thrombogenicity is more in European countries than in Asian countries. Inflammatory conditions again are more in European countries, not in Indian companies. So all these types of symptoms may not be there amongst Indians. We have the lowest mortality as on today, 2 per million population. Though we have crossed the numbers more than the China, but our mortality is still 50% of China. So somehow or other, something is protecting Indians. So if we have a natural protection, whether it is BCG, whether it is MMR, whether it is our social life, whatever it may be, whether it is strong immunity, strong genetics, whatever you may call it as, if God has given us a preference as on today that we have a lower mortality than Europe and than US, then why fear? What is the fear? When European and US have started practicing, they are actively practicing, then why fear? So I want each one of you who are watching this program, that you have numbers of Deepak, you have numbers of Abir, and if they don't respond, you have my number. Call anytime 24/7 will help you in establishing and taking that fear out. You need to take out your fear and the fear of the public. So Deepak, I want to come back to non-dermatological, cosmetological procedures. Do you want to cover them?
Yeah. I think apart from aerosolization, there is absolutely no risk in getting the procedures done. Only thing is that there may be some practical issues, like the staff may not be coming, or you are just getting used to at least doing the consultations right now. So over a period of time, all the procedures can start. There is no reason why a regular procedure cannot be done. So almost all procedures can be done. Only thing is that till the time our staff is adequately trained and oriented, our clinic is properly made as a proper post-COVID clinic. We should not unnecessarily force some cosmetic procedures, but I don't think there is any necessity of not doing that.
Yeah.
One more thing I just want to add,
Yes.
want to add one thing, that you compared our studies with China. You are comparing the studies with whatever China has declared. We really do not know the real situation over there.
Okay, so I'll answer that. Because I'm currently the president of all Asian countries. I'm comparing myself with all other Asian countries. The results are the same. If China, proportionately they may be making a lie, but their mortality is double than ours.
Yes.
Okay, and this is all Asian countries. So all Asian countries, including China, are behaving the same way. All European countries are behaving the same way. And all American countries are behaving the same way. And if they are behaving the same way, there is no reason to say that China has a very high mortality and they are suppressing it. If that's so, all Asian countries would have behaved the same. Taiwan should have behaved the same. Singapore should have behaved the same. Hong Kong should have behaved the same. These are all Mongolian countries. They should have behaved the same. These are all Mongolite personalities. So they should have behaved the same way. No, that's not. So this is matching with whatever they have said, it is matching. People said that they killed lakhs of people who were sick. I don't think so. They may be denying or they may be holding on the numbers that every country is doing. That every country is downplaying their numbers. But statistically, it is covering up. That statistical error is covering up. So therefore, I say is today there was a discussion that Singapore said that we have the best of the ICUs. But when we do the statistics, best of the ICUs will make a difference of only 0.3% in mortality. But the mortality difference is too much. India 3, Europe 6, Europe 10, and America 6% mortality. That difference cannot. There has to be a racial difference. There has to be a genetical difference. We can't say that we are better in terms of treatment, in terms of ICU facilities. Europe is much better than us. US is much better than us. Still their mortality is higher. So there is something we don't know. And because something is protecting us, so with folding hand, 7 o'clock, start practicing today. At least I want somebody to call up and say, I have started my practice today. That's what I'm motivating everybody. Don't worry. Mortality in Indians is not that high. Mortality in Indian patients is not that high. We can start practice. Take the fear out. You need to live with it. It is not going to go. The vaccine is not going to come in nearby. And even if the vaccine comes, 66% people need vaccination and the countries can't afford. Because this vaccine is not going to be less than 1,000 rupees. And 1,000 rupees vaccine, 60%, 66% of the population, I don't think so Modi ji can afford. He will not be able to give it unless it is made available at 100 rupees. So I don't think so the vaccine will be available. Vaccine will only be available for doctors or a high-risk patients. But general population vaccine is not going to come. So the disease incidence and prevalence may not reduce. It may come back again in October 19 with a big surge like a Spanish flu. The second wave of Spanish flu was much, much, much larger than the first wave. So live like it, who cares? Live like that we are, as a medical doctor, we are, even if we get it, so what? So 1% of the medical fraternity has been getting TB. I have a large, all doctors in the country, 1% of them who are in active clinical practice in medical ward, they get TB 1%. Are you afraid of that? Have you ever spoken about that? Agitated about that? With that? On the contrary, take advantages. Pollution has gone down. Number of deaths have gone down. Number of road traffic accidents have gone out. Take it as an opportunity, not as a... Take it as an opportunity. You will reduce H1N1 flu in the society. You will reduce typhoid, diarrhea, food poisoning. Everything will reduce because you are using hygiene. What Modi ji could not do in almost like so many years in his Swachh Bharat, COVID has done it in 3 months. He has taught you hygiene. He had taught you a hand hygiene and a personal hygiene that could not be done by the government for so many years. But COVID has done it. So COVID is respect COVID and behave with him. The only thing he says is live with me, but at a distance of 6 feet. Am I? Yes, Deepak.
And one more thing COVID has done good is it has forced government to take out with the telemedicine order. Now we are free to do telemedicine.
So remember, in a telemedicine order, we need to call, the patient needs to initiate the recording. Always ask the patient to initiate the call, because then it is an implied consent. Otherwise, there are a lot of restrictions. You need to have a copy, you need to have a recording, everything together. So it is,
and that is very important for cosmetic dermatology procedures as well, because specifically in our branch, there are a lot of doctors who practice predominantly cosmetic medicines. They have been taking out advertisements and some loopholes that are there in our medical act that allow hospitals and clinics to take out advertisements. They have been soliciting patients for cosmetic procedures. They have to be extra careful, at least not to solicit now, and make sure that the initiation for the cosmetic procedure comes from the patient's side, and then take adequate precautions, all of them, if needed, take consent for those procedures very clearly also before they do it.
I agree with you. You need to safeguard yourself. And in the COVID era, I was talking to one of a Supreme Court retired judge, and he said that government may allow you to an exemption from COVID patient, but non-COVID medical negligence will not be covered. If you are willfully doing any soliciting of patient during COVID era, that will not be allowed. That will be taken as a Medical Council of India violation of ethics with that. And in any way, if you are a dermatologist, if you are 60 plus, and if you are a dermatologist, you are diabetic, hypertension, you have heart failure, then you are slightly at a higher risk. So what do you do? Deepak and Abir, and then I'll answer that. What if a dermatologist is 60 plus and he's having comorbid conditions? In that situation, should he attend the clinic, close the clinic, or continue only teleconsultation?
I will prefer if such a person continues teleconsultation and tries to involve his juniors for the time being at least. And considering the wave is going, later on he can get involved in teaching or many other things he can do, and try to stay away from practice if possible. But if he's alone in his clinic, by keeping all the social distancing and the precautions of care, I think with a slightly higher degree of risk, he can still practice.
Yeah, I have a dermatologist who is 60. I was talking about this in another panel discussion yesterday, and a couple of the panelists were 60 plus dermatologists. And they have also now started seeing patients, mostly in teledermatology settings, but also in clinic now with a lot of precautions, with a few extra precautions. One dermatologist who I know in a small town in UP has even set up a full glass partition from floor to ceiling, and has divided his consultation chamber into two parts, and made another door for the patient to come in from the other side. There is a microphone kept on that side, and the speaker is in the consultant. So he has completely isolated the patient room from his room. The disadvantage, of course, is that he cannot touch or palpate, but relatively few patients need that, and that is how he is practicing.
Which is good, even if you talk about Fortis and if you talk about Max, and they have most of them have a cover between a plastic transparent partition between the patient and the doctor. And when they take 2 or 3 minutes to examine, then the patient sits behind the curtain and they talk it over with that. So that they reduce their, the purpose is to reduce physical face-to-face time.
Yes.
Less the face-to-face time, more the chances of not getting any infection. So we have only 6 minutes left. Quickly, I have a large number of questions. Let me quickly ask. This will be a rapid fire. I have already started my clinic. My question is how to disinfect my chamber and waiting room. Quickly.
Sodium hypochlorite.
Sodium hypochlorite, 0.1%. Age limit. Dr.
1%.
Brij Agarwal. This was Dr. Benny Joseph. Dr. Brijesh Agarwal. Age limit. Same. If you are 60 plus,
I think we've discussed that. 60 plus.
You take more precautions. Then procedural practice, what changes needed, we have covered that. And then what about procedure like PRP and hair transplant procedures? What about PRP first? How is every yes.
No, I think the contact time of PRP is less than 30 minutes, so it should not be a problem. Hair transplant is a little dicey subject.
Yeah, but PRP will involve, if you are extracting PRP in your own lab, your technicians and the phlebotomists need to take good care that they are not exposed to the blood or the plasma while centrifuging, while transferring it from one syringe to the other. So they need to take a lot of good extra basic common sense precautions need to be taken.
And deeply post tips in common group. I couldn't understand that. How many dermatologists got infected due to COVID?
0 so far, including you were referring to the Kanika Kapoor case which happened in Lucknow, and she had visited a dermatologist for a cosmetic procedure, and that colleague is also not infected.
So dermatologist nil, good news. So that's another news. Is SCQS prophylaxis useful? I am using it. If you are having a comorbid conditions, use it. I am using it. I am taking SCQS prophylaxis. It is a shared decision between you and your doctor. Legal status of aesthetic elective procedures during COVID-19 times, especially during lockdown.
Yeah. So the legal status of aesthetic procedures, like I said, if you're soliciting them, then it's a problem. If the patient comes to you on their own, you take consent, you take all precautions and tell them about it, and they still say yes, I think you can go ahead.
And then what about a transplant we have done? And if leaving apron in clinic, can you wear the same in the morning? Yes, go ahead. You can sterilize it in the night. I'll explain to you one more thing. Now what people do, Now these are somebody is asking about to show these sheets again. So this is a simple sheet, which is costing 30 rupees. If you buy in bulk, it will cost you 20 rupees. This is another shield, which is costing 100 rupees because this is a glass. This is a glass, and this will last longer. And this is also a shield which you people can do. Now, what people do, if you see the formula of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and I'll give you a trick. This is called a Jugadu trick for clinic practices. So you have this, buy them 5. Anything you want to buy them in 5. N95, 5 mask, complete sheet, 5 sheets, complete personal protective equipments, whatever is costly, buy them in 5. So I have used this today. So I keep it and use it on the 6th day. By 6th day, no virus will stay here. So the virus life maximum is 3 days. So if I use a N95 mask, if I have used it and kept it in the locker and use it on 6th day, it's fine. And whatever, if I use a complete personal protective equipment. So similarly, when you're talking about your surgical gown, take 6 surgical gowns, keep it, जैसे लगाते हैं ना एक एक करके, ये Monday का, ये Tuesday का, ये Wednesday का, Thursday का. So you have 7 gowns, 6 gowns, and you say Monday का gown, every Monday I'm going to wear. You're free of virus. These are Jugadu techniques which people are doing, and they are effective. And normally I would not have spoken about that, but when I saw the protocol of All India Institute of Medical Sciences doing it, and that means it has become a standard practice, government has recognized it for N95 mask. You wear a mask today, and if it has not been spoiled, you can use it on 6th day again. So similarly, all of you can use your things. So therefore, keep those things in the clinic as long as you have a safe locker in the clinic where you can keep. Not outside where you are touching. If you can keep anything without any touching, you should be able to do that. So I have only 2 minutes left. I'll request Deepak and Abir to spend 1 minute each and give final messages.
So the message as such is start your clinics, take adequate precautions, train your patients, train your staff, and remove the fear from your mind. Just one point I wanted to add. Whenever you're using an N95 mask, always keep a mask spare because the elastic bands are very fragile in many of the newly manufactured ones. Always have a spare mask with you.
Abir.
Yes. Again, same message. I think most of the dermatologists have already started working, and those who haven't would have realized that we are in this for the long run. The virus is not going anywhere. And we were taking risks almost equal to what this virus is exposing us to even earlier without realizing or bothering about them. So this fear factor that has built in is largely groundless, as Dr. K.K. Agarwal has explained today. And I think it's a good idea if we can start helping our patients and start doing our practice. It will be good for us as well as good for the community.
So dear colleague and my friends, time to give Guru Dakshina, because you had two teachers par excellence. You had Abir and Deepak teaching you, and me moderating. So for sometimes I was always your teacher and a guru. And Guru Dakshina is go back and start your clinic right away. Don't worry about that. At least one of you should start your clinic now, and tomorrow start back your clinic. Take the fear out. We are with you. Thank you very much for having us. And if you have any question, keep posting. We'll answer you back. We'll be back with one more seminar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deepak ji, and thank you, Abir ji.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.